This is Precious Lee, a plus size model. I'm Molly Moske, a high school senior. Precious Lee is one of the most beautiful women out there. However, she wouldn't have been seen as so in the 90s, and neither would I. As a young girl, I would wonder this: why do the models in my mother's magazines and her mother's mothers look so different from the ones on my coffee table? So I went looking. The CNN article I found shows how people's ideas of beauty have changed throughout history, starting in 25,000 BC with the same curvy silhouette that Precious has, and moving through the decades, transitioning into slimmer bodies until we reach the 90s and 2000s with their skinny figures. One thing that hasn't changed, however, is the girls who grew up reading and seeing these standards and developing insecurities surrounding them. And now they have children of their own who share these insecurities with them. How do I know? Personal experience. My mother is a kind person, but she struggled with, like most women, with how she looked as she aged, and especially after having children. I ended up learning two things to be true. One, that my sister is skinny, and I am not. And that my mother used to have my sister's body, a good thing, and that now her clothes fit me, a bad thing. This focus on my weight growing up, paired with the magazines of skinny women who had the new best diet, chipped away at my self image, and even caused issues with a special diet of my own. Eating too much or eating too little became an obsession for a while. And I was thinking back to this, remembering that I didn't know that a lot of people around the world shared the same issues. However, I did learn that they struggled with something that I never will and I haven't. Race plays a large role in beauty standards, and especially with how they've been passed down from generation to generation. Tanya Russell wrote an interesting article about this and the beauty standards we inherit in Allure magazine. She discusses her experience as a black woman facing Eurocentric beauty standards and how that has impacted her and her family's insecurities growing up, including her natural hair. She mentions the term aesthetic trauma to use to define the ideas and insecurities surrounding appearance. And Mara Gonzalez's book, Intergenerational Prophecies, explores the historical context and individual perception of beauty and its impact on Hispanic women and their subsequent children. These women were born into insecurities due to historical influences on beauty standards, and it's had a clear impact on their mental health and self confidence. After all, if you are told to hate how you naturally look, you are bound to think there's something fundamentally wrong with who you are. And the growing use of social media in our culture has little escape from this. As I scroll through my feed, I see the ridiculous photos. A Lifestyle Collective article mentions the abundance of picture editing apps used on selfies to attain perfection. A nursing journal study on Gen Z women found a significant relationship between social media usage and beauty insecurities, especially in teenagers. Look at social media trends, such as the once fun girl dinner being turned into a competition of who eats the least in a day, or the abundance of workouts to get a bikini body before summer, or even the infamy of plastic surgery such as BBLs, nose jobs, lip fillers, but fat removals, the list goes on. I mean, a 2015 Korean study found that 14% of women had had plastic surgery before, with 60% saying that they would get it for marriage, and 65% of men saying they would get it for their job. Surgery is a serious process, but the public perception that beauty standards perpetuate makes it seem like it's worth it, even more showing the detrimental effects to one's physical and mental health. The idea of pretty privilege and excessive commenting on people's bodies online harms both those who fit into these standards and those who don't, including the praise that one gets for surgically altering their appearance. Men are harassed if they're attractive, with inappropriate comments made on posts, and misogyny and toxic masculinity has made it difficult to speak out against this, as they may be called weak or fragile for doing so, even if they are uncomfortable with these comments. And speaking of toxic masculinity and misogyny, David Robson's BBC article mentions the surprising downsides of being drop dead gorgeous, with how attractive women face prejudice that makes them less likely to be hired for high level jobs. Here goes to show again that the beauty standards impact all people, regardless of whether or not they fit into them. However, change is being made. Look at how magazines have evolved, including the articles in them. Teen Vogue's beauty standards section has taken great strides towards discussing beauty issues and including people who have previously been excluded. And even the Alert article before mentions how women have changed their habits and parenting to stop inflicting their own insecurities on the next generation. The Body Peace Treaty from 17 magazine in 2012 vowed to no longer show models who are unhealthy, and also vowed to no longer edit models' bodies. And back to Precious Lee, a black and plus size model alongside many other black plus size models, making history in Vogue and runways and other magazines towards inclusivity. But let's not forget, there is still much to be done. Makeup still has a long way to go in Western cultures, as it is difficult to find darker shades, or they are completely passed over by big brands, and hair care remains Eurocentric in most stores. Sunscreen also still leaves a white cast on many different skin tones. And while makeup brand Fenty made a big change towards inclusivity by giving a large shade range option. Companies like Euphoria have done the opposite, although they did receive great backlash. Colonization's effects on countries don't are also still an issue in the eastern part of the world, such as how Asian makeup products are very pale regardless of how tan the majority of the country is, even selling skin lightening creams. So again, I ask myself why? Why do beauty standards change so drastically yet always seem to recycle? One answer is colonialism and the racism it brought to generations, and another is sexism and the way it influences how men and women live. However, a clinics and dermatology article explains it best. Perception. Beauty evolves through cultural changes, environmental changes, social changes. It is dynamic and based on people's perceptions, conscious and unconscious, of what is beautiful. This includes your perception. What do you think is beautiful and why? Do you really think it has no impact on how you treat others or how you treat yourself? Do you think that's fair? If you don't, good. And if you do, well, you might wake up in 10 or 20 years with a child who faces the same thing that I and many others did: insecurities. Because beauty standards change, they always have and they always will. And yet our looks usually don't change along with them as we age. And as you look at the magazines and the media and actors and shows and Instagram, whatever, remember that everything can be edited, everything can be surgically altered, everything can be starved or dehydrated out of someone. Look at your own poor values in beauty and think of what you can do to change it. Learn more about beauty history before you hate your nose and color or someone else's nose and color. And most importantly, look into your own generational trauma when it comes to family. It may help you find peace and help you realize that there's nothing wrong with how you were born or what you look like. Acceptance is the best thing we can do for ourselves. And when you finally find it, look into how you can help others find it for themselves. Thank you.